These are my notes. These are my references. This is my audience.
Oh, please.
Have you ever met someone so funny it made you rethink your perception of reality? Today, I'll be giving you information about George Carlin. There are three main ideas about Mr. Carlin I will discuss. I'll start by discussing his background and his upbringing. Then I'll move on to discuss his role in the comedy scene from the entire time he began up until this point. And finally, I'll finish by informing you about his impact on the FCC and the entertainment industry. So let me begin by telling you about George Carlin's background. George Carlin was born May 12, 1937 in Manhattan, and was born the son of an award-winning public speaker, his father, though his father would leave 2 months after he was born, so his mother would end up raising him. Carlin joined the U.S. Air Force but was discharged for being unproductive in 1957. It would say that he would cuss at his superiors and just laze about and not do his job, though this would still end up giving him a job in the Army radio industry, and later on in his civilian life would transfer as a disc jockey. In his early days of school, he was the winner of many drama awards and public speaking awards. Now let me move on and discuss his role as a comedian and public speaker. Early on, Carlin formed a comedic troupe in Fort Worth, Texas. The troupe he formed would go on to make an award-winning comedy TV show. Starting off, George Carlin was very bland and didn't exactly, wasn't as raunchy as we know him today, though he realized at some point that he was doing stand-up comedy for the parents of the people he really wanted to do stand-up comedy for. So he decided to stop wearing a suit, he grew out his hair, and he grew out his beard, and decided that he would be the raunchy comedian that we know today. Carlin's roots in public speaking stem from his father, though his mother is the one who gave him his love of the English language. And finally, I will finish by informing you about his impact on the FCC and the entertainment industry. Carlin spoke out openly against the government. His main political platform consisted of totalitarianism and division of people by means of subtle slavery. This would mean kind of like the way that they would tell him he couldn't really cuss during his comedic shows, and this was ignited in 1962 after one of his comedy specials where he was arrested for public indecency. And it wasn't indecent in the way that you're thinking. It was just he did a comedy show and people didn't like what he said, and at the time this was grounds for arrest. And so he was arrested, and later on would do that same special 10 years later, and Pacifica Foundation would record this and put this out on television and radio. The FCC would later catch wind of this when a minister in Minnesota found out about it and wrote a letter to the FCC. Now, the FCC didn't have grounds for this, but censored him, and this, even today, lawmakers say was wrong. FCC said that Americans had inalienable rights except for radio and television. In radio and television, Americans had no rights, and so that's where this came to play. And so it was the FCC versus Pacifica Foundation, and though it did have to do with George Carlin's stand-up special, George Carlin played no part, and he didn't have to go up and testify or anything. It was specifically about what was indecent and what was not, and what we could say. Well, the FCC ended up finding George Carlin not guilty, but they can censor him. This didn't happen the first round. The first round, it ended up being the FCC could not censor him. The second round was when they decided that they could, but the judge ruled this because he felt as though young children should not be able to see 7 words you should not say on TV or radio. And so now that's how we have the censorship that we have today, where in the beginning of the day you'll have more family-friendly content, and later on in the night you have more adult-oriented content. Carlin had heart problems for years and had several heart attacks. He ended up doing comedy up until the very end, though, a month before his final heart attack. I just told you aspects of George Carlin's life. I started by giving you information on his background, then I informed you about his role as a public speaker and comedian. Lastly, I gave you information about his impact on the FCC and the way people see the entertainment industry. George Carlin has made such an impact on stand-up comedy and the society in which he entertained. He is considered one of the most influential comedians of all time. Thank you.